You're listening to 50 Pirates in 50 Days on the Sports Objective Podcast. A new era of East Carolina football is here and will begin on August 31st when Mike Houston leads the Pirates into action at NC State. Between now and then, join us for a daily trip down memory lane as we experience Pirate football through the words of the men who made those memorable moments happen. Here's your host, Bubba Rosenbaum.
We continue our great series thanks to Bubba Rosenbaum behind the scenes. Appreciate him very much. And Bubba, I know our 50 for 50 has been very popular thanks to all the people listening, and now another great player from back in the day.
Yeah, we've caught up with several guys from the 1991 era, and now we're catching up with a guy who was on the defensive side of the ball that year, an outside backer, Jerry Dillon. Jerry, welcome in.
Thanks for having me, gentlemen. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely wanted to have you on. One of the great things about our podcast is we get a chance to reminisce. We get a chance to meet, talk to former players, former Pirates. Want to get out of the gate, talk to you about what made you come to East Carolina. Why be a Pirate?
Well, I actually never heard of East Carolina. You know,
seems to be a running theme.
Being from Florida, all I heard of Florida State, Miami, and Florida. And that's where I thought I was going to go to school until the infamous Coach Donnie Thompson came and had a meeting with my parents after viewing some film on me. And after he left my house, my mom looked at me and said, "You're not going anywhere but East Carolina." So I ended up being a Pirate.
Wow.
Yeah. So he did a great recruiting job, if you would say.
Yeah. And we hear that all the time with Coach Ruffin McNeil when he was here, that he could go in there and talk to the mama and promise that he always says that he only had girls and all his sons were on the football team, and he could go in there and talk to mama like at the kitchen table. So as far as your recruiting process, was it really quick? Was it like, okay, definitely East Carolina, or was there other schools? Who else was recruiting?
Yeah, I went to a couple other schools. I took trips to University of Memphis. I went to Northern Illinois. And I went to take two other schools. But, and actually when I came to East Carolina on my visit, it was actually the first time that there was snow in Greenville in probably 20 years, in 1988.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Well, it could be actually 1987. The winter of 1987, and most of the players were gone. So there was nobody around. But I met some guys, one or two guys that stayed around, and it was a simple visit. But Mom said, "You're going to East Carolina," and I said, "Okay, I'm going to East Carolina."
Well, I'm glad she twisted your arm to make you come to East Carolina.
That's right.
Now, Jared, having grown up in Florida, had you seen snow prior to that?
I'd never seen snow in my life. Actually, I came to East Carolina with some loafers, some shorts, and I'm like, whoa, it's kind of cold up here. Yeah, I'd never seen snow in my life until that day.
Yeah, that reminds me of my freshman year. I went to a small college up in the mountains before transferring to East Carolina, and there were a lot of kids from Florida that came there to Louisa McCray College in the mountains of North Carolina. I'll never forget, they said, when I was new to campus, they said, "That kid's from Florida." He said, "How do you know?" It's like, who in the world would wear shorts to the mountains when it's chilly outside? But they didn't bring the right clothes with them.
Didn't bring the right clothes. It took me a while to get the right clothes, but I eventually got it.
We'll talk about I know you had a chance, obviously, some coaching changes, which we're going through right now with a new coach, Mike Houston. You had a chance to play with Art Baker and then Bill Lewis. What was that like with both coaches?
Well, Art Baker, I guess it was his final year, which was my first year there. And he was kind of, I guess you could say, a laid-back kind of coach. Wasn't kind of the rah-rah, get in your face kind of coach like Bill Lewis. Bill Lewis was the rah-rah, and he brought in the staff that were get in your face kind of guys. So it was, I don't want to say it was night and day, but it was night and day between the two coaches' staff. So.
And obviously during that period was, I know Coach Logan joked that in the late 80s, we were playing like 9 homecomings because there's like East Carolina was not good,
right.
and so everybody was scheduling East Carolina for homecoming. And to take that process, can you talk about one thing that I love about your era is can you talk about the times of where you go from 9 homecomings to the Peach Bowl? I mean, that's got to be an amazing experience.
Well, everybody wanted to play East Carolina because they figured it would be an easy win. We go from, I think, my freshman year, I think we won. I actually asked Coach Baker to redshirt me. And I think we won 2 games, maybe 3 games my freshman year. To go into my redshirt freshman year, that was
1989.
89. I think we won. We went 5-6 or 6-5, 5-6, I believe. And then we started improving. But everybody wanted to play East Carolina because we as players, we would look at. We had the talent. I could see it that we had the talent. I saw other teams, and our talent level was better than most teams. But what I noticed at East Carolina, my first, I guess, 3 years, I think, or first 4 years, 3 years, I take that back, that we ran 3 different defenses. It was like a coaching revolving door when I was there. My freshman, sophomore, and junior year. The year that we won the Peach Bowl was the first time that we ran the same defense for 2 years in a row. So we ran the same defense in 1990 and 1991. And just to have the camaraderie of the players and the knowledge of the game of doing the same thing instead of changing the terminology, that helped tremendously.
You played on that 91 team. Everybody always remembers Jeff Blake in the offense. That defense was pretty good, too. Talk about playing with guys like Robert Jones and just some of the big plays that year, like some of the big plays against teams like Virginia Tech on defense, and I think you had a big play towards the end of the Peach Bowl against NC State.
Well, to play with Robert, matter of fact, I still keep in contact with Robert. Matter of fact, he just moved not too far from me. He moved to Cary, North Carolina, so from Texas. So he's a stone's throw away from where I am now. It was good playing with Robert. Robert was very competitive. Robert was, I could say, he was a student of the game. He knew most everybody's position on the defense, and a lot of guys fed off of Robert and fed off of his energy of let's go get it. And I do have to say one thing about Robert. There was no off day for Robert. If you would say, he was if coach said, okay, you have an off day today, you turn around, Robert's going to the gym, going to the weight room to get some extra workout. So even though he was the middle linebacker, he was one of the leaders on the team. As you could talk to Dime Kumalai, Derek Taylor, these linemen, Bernard Carter, these guys, a bunch of ragtag group of guys that came together in 1991 to do something special, at East Carolina.
Indeed. What are some of your favorite moments from that 91 season? I mean, obviously the Peach Bowl win against State. I mean, what are some of your other favorite moments from that season?
Well, the Peach Bowl game against State, of course, that's the cherry on top. One of my favorite games was the Pitt game. I had some great plays in that game, but the end of the game when your stomach is in knots, and then after when Jeff Blake scored in that 2-point conversion, we still had to go back out on defense. But that's the first time, other than being in the University of South Carolina, and playing in their stadium, because you can't hear anything down there. It's so loud that I was at East Carolina in that stadium, and actually you felt the ground shake. After Jeff scored that touchdown, the ground shook. and it just gave you goosebumps, all over your body. That like, man, we're going to do this. So that game, then I had an interception against Cincinnati. Then we actually went up to Syracuse and beat Syracuse against Marvin Graves that year. I had a pretty good game that game as well. So I had some serious memories, about that, the 1991 season. And I'm pretty good friends with some NC State players, and I bring that up consistently. I just remind them.
You mentioned having that interception in the Cincinnati game. I brought this up to another player. That was the week after the Virginia Tech win where the Pirates come from behind, beat the Hokies in Lane Stadium, and you get the Peach Bowl invite the following Sunday. So you have the Peach Bowl in your back pocket. Everybody's riding high, knowing you're going to the Peach Bowl. But you still have to go on the road and play another game and play Cincinnati.
Right.
How did you guys stay focused with all that going on to go play that game on the road in Nippert Stadium and come away with a win?
Let me tell you something. That was a very, very difficult game. Cincinnati pretty much had us on the ropes. We were supposed to go in, we as a team, we had planned on we're just going to go up there and just run through Cincinnati. But that was not the case. They fought us to the T because every week, Coach Lewis and Coach Connors, they would make T-shirts. And one of the T-shirts that Coach Lewis made was a bullseye T-shirt. And I probably still got it somewhere upstairs in my collection. It was a bullseye T-shirt that everybody's gunning for you. You're winning. At that time, we probably won 8-9 games in a row, and we're winning. So everybody wants to beat you. We're ranked in the nation. Everybody's talking about East Carolina. You couldn't get a newspaper after the game on Saturday morning because it was all sold out. Talking about East Carolina, especially in Greenville. So going up to Cincinnati, that turned out to be a very, very difficult game. I'm so glad we won it, and I'm so glad I got an interception to help with that victory because that would have been very embarrassing after we got the invite to turn around and lose the following week. That would have been devastating to the team and to me as well.
Jerry, a moment ago you referenced, or Kyle referenced, the Syracuse game that year, and so here in the last few days, somehow I was on YouTube watching another football game, and I came across the 1991 Florida-Syracuse game. The Gators had gone up there, I guess, about 3 weeks or so prior to us going up there, and Florida had gone in ranked third and come out of the Carrier Dome with a 38-21 loss. So that's a win that I think it was the first win that we had in our program's history over a ranked team on the road. Syracuse was ranked 15th.
Yeah, right. That game. It started off, and I tell you what, we had a goal line stance on that game. That if you ever look at that film, Zahn Kumalai and Bernard Carter, they had a tremendous game that game. And we had a goal line stance that they were driving I think it was sometime in the first quarter. And we stopped them, and that just, we were called the bend but do not break defense. We bent a lot, but fortunately we didn't break. And to go into Syracuse in the Carrier Dome and face a ranked team like that and beat them in their home turf, of course, that was big for East Carolina. Yeah. Big, huge.
Bubba, tell Jerry about your dog.
Yeah, so I was going to bring it up. I was going to bring it up a little bit later on, but I'll go ahead since Kyle mentioned it. So, needless to say, you were one of my favorite players for sure. I guess my favorite player, without a doubt. And we got a new chow that year, and chow mix, and he and it was so funny. That's what we were like. What do we name the dog? And I said, well, how about Dillon? And so, needless to say, that was the dog's name, and we had that dog until he passed away in 2004.
So that's a beautiful name. Beautiful name.
I didn't know you could take it two ways. Like it's an honor, or also I'm named after a dog.
Well, no, the dog was named after him. He wasn't named after
the dog was named after him.
Yeah, the dog was named after him.
I know.
I don't mind.
I
don't mind.
But no. So kind of along those same lines, one of the reasons you're my favorite player is because earlier Kyle referenced the play you had late in the Peach Bowl. I think it was NC State's next to last possession, something like that. I want to say they ran end around to Davenport or something like that, and you dropped in for about a 10 or 15-yard loss and just hopped up and immediately pointed at their sideline of the stands or wherever in that general direction. But I just remember the excitement that you played with and some of your dances or whatever you want to say after making big plays. I want to say that year, like you were talking about Robert Jones. I think it was against South Carolina, and Robert made a big stick, and I think
you there?
He started pointing.
Well, I tell you what, South Carolina game, Robert made a heck of a hit on the fullback or the running back that came up the middle, and I said to myself, man, Robert can't get all this glory. I mean, he ain't getting all this by himself. So Robert Jones on the tackle. I said, no. So I guess they threw a little dump pass to the tight end across the middle, and he was slammed across the middle. He didn't see me coming, and I had a perfect hit. I hit him, hit the ball, and the ball flew up in the air. Chris Hall ended up intercepting the ball, and that right there, we were like, they're not going to come into Ficklin, in the Dodge-Ficklin Stadium and beat us. That's not going to happen. Not today. That's not going to happen. Because I remember the year before, we always took the trip down to South Carolina and made it, a nice trip, but we'll go down there and they whoop us. But we're like, nah, not today. Not today.
Now, Jerry, your senior year in 92, I remember there for a while you had to play with that soft cast on.
Oh, yeah.
But that season, when we defeated Pittsburgh up at Pitt Stadium, didn't you have a big play in that ball game?
In the Pitt game?
For some reason, it seems like you had a big, maybe a pick or something.
I can't remember that game. I'll be honest with you. That game, that year was, for me, I don't want to say it was disappointing. We went through some changes as far as with quarterbacks, not having a consistent quarterback. We had the parts. We had the parts available for the team to be successful, but we just couldn't put it together that year. And to go out as a senior and not duplicating what we did the year before, it left a sour taste in my mouth. And then to break my thumb, the first game of the season, and I missed the South Carolina game, which we had up going down there and beating them in South Carolina. That hurt a little bit. I think I had a DNP, did not play for 2 games. Then I played with a soft pass for the rest of the year. Pretty much I was one-handed, for the rest of the year.
Right. For some reason, I wanted to say the play that I was referring to, maybe it was maybe a bad snap on a field goal where you tackled the holder or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right now, I tell you what.
Don't ask me why I remember that, but you can ask these guys. I remember a bunch of stuff that people would think, how in the world?
How you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's an East Carolina. The one thing I can tell you, Jerry, he's a East Carolina expert. It's funny when we started the podcast. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was funny when we started the podcast. We thought, you think, oh yeah, I know a little bit about East Carolina football, basketball, baseball, whatever. And it's funny, the more that we do this show, the more you find out, the less you know. Not trying to rhyme.
Right. Yeah, true. Very true.
What about, I wanted to ask you as far as with the current situation now, we're going through a coaching change. How close are you following the program with now the likes of having a great coach like Mike Houston?
Well, I'm in pretty much a chat group with a bunch of East Carolina alumni, basketball players, football players, and regular students. That we pretty much chat every day, or say something. So we're following it very closely. And as a group, we're like, man, we need East Carolina to get back to where they were. We don't want to just go and, all right, man, I'm not going. You go to the game this week? No, man, I'm not going. I'm not going down there. And we don't want to keep saying that.
It's not Pirate football, right, Jerry?
Right. That's not Pirate football. That's not Pirate football at all. So it's been a difficult past couple of years to watch the deterioration of the program. And everybody wants to win. So I don't want to say they're not trying. I mean, it's just you got to put the right pieces together. And I'm hopeful that Coach Houston is going to put the right pieces together. That's going to get us the ship righted.
And another thing is, I feel like I've said a number of times on the podcast, and of course 50-50 that we're doing now, the very fact that I really believe there's a lot of talent. I believe these players are hungry, kind of like you guys were in '90. I'm not saying we're going to go 11-1. I'm not going to say that. I'm not.
Right.
Bubba and I are super fans, and I'm an alum and followed the team for many years. But I do believe that we'll see huge improvements, and there'll be games that instead of getting blown out by 40 points or something crazy like we've had to deal with, they're going to be very competitive, and I think we're going to even steal some games maybe we shouldn't win. That's kind of reminiscent of what it means to be a Pirate.
I'll take it. I'll take it. I deal with a lot of alumni. I'm recognized a lot. People that I don't know. Hey man, you're J-Dog. So we talk Pirate football, and it's like even though it's been almost 30 years since I played, it's still fresh. And you always want your alma mater to do well.
I wanted to ask you.
Pirate doing through.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you when you were it triggered a question when you were talking about being a former player. How hard is that? Like, if you're a former player and you talk to former players, how hard is it to not only come to a game, but that this program has a rich tradition. You're part of a rich tradition, being a great player, one of the many great players in the program history. How hard is it to watch a program that you love so much and that you put all those, and now we just have one-a-days, but I know it was at least two-a-days back then in our era when I was there at school. How hard is it?
It's extremely hard. It's extremely hard to watch something that you built, something that you helped create, start going the opposite direction. Mm-hmm. One thing that we have spoken to as former players amongst ourselves. I don't know who we can speak to make this happen, but I think at East Carolina as well. You see it in other schools, but at East Carolina, I would think, other than Letterman Day, Letterman Days are given, they invite the players back. But I think on a consistent basis that the coaches or the staff or some of the faculty there at ECU football should invite some of the old players back, to encourage the players, to interact with the players. Because, I don't want, what I've noticed that, and with some of the players that I've dealt with, is once you're gone, you're pretty much thrown out of the program, and you're like, oh yeah, he's an old player. But when you look at some of the other schools, you see some of their alumni active with the current players. You can't mingle because there's a bunch of NCAA rules. But if you show your face with the program, that would bring recruit. Oh yeah, that guy used to be pretty good. Let's give East Carolina a shot. Let's go to East Carolina. So that recruit that might have not think about going to East Carolina, you're like, hey, let's give East Carolina a shot because hey, old J-Dog, old Robert Jones, he was a pretty good player in the day. Let's go to East Carolina. But
I'm sorry.
So pretty much I was saying, we want to be, invite us back. Invite us back to the old stomping ground, the old Greenville, other than just Letterman's Day.
Absolutely. I was going to say you bring up an excellent point, and that's something that the new head coach, Mike Houston, and his staff
are really emphasizing. He attended our podcast party that we had, the 40th anniversary for the 1978 Independence Bowl team at Professor O'Cool's in Greenville back in December when he had only been on the job about a week or so. And after talking with us and former head coach Pat Dye on the air, he made it a point to talk to the former players who were there and tell them that we most definitely have an open door policy, and this is their program, and they're welcome back anytime, just to let him know.
Right. I mean, that'd be something great. That could happen. I'll accept that any day.
And I know something else. Several of the players we've talked to, they said that folks on the staff have reached out to them, and they're in the process of reaching out to the football letter winners like yourself to compile a database, and so you guys will be kept in the loop and that sort of thing. So that was awesome to hear.
Yeah, that would be something great. I mean, I'll support that 100%. I really will. You know, I am a purple, true and true, a pirate through and through. I have an ECU room in my house.
Oh my gosh!
You know, it's purple and gold throughout the whole room. You know, it's my gym, and I have my plaque, my mirrors, everything in the wall, all ECU in that room. And my kids know.
Yeah. They tell them to stay out of the room.
Stay out of my room. That's my room, and they know.
You put alarms on there or something right near the door. It's got cameras around there, Bubba. You were.
I haven't gone that far, but I should. It's a good idea.
Jerry, I was going to mention the fact when Bubba was talking about that very thing. Coach Houston has said numerous times to the media, and not only to when he came to the podcast to reach out to the 78 team. When I think of all the great players over the years, you included. If you say, like, if I'm at the practice, I'm just this guy, a media guy that, I love the Pirates, went to East Carolina, I bleed purple and gold. If I say something to a current player, they're not going to even listen to me, even though I've coached and done a lot of stuff. And I love the university and the sport, obviously. But if you go to a practice or you are at a game, you say something to a player, they're going to listen to you because you've been there, you've done that, you helped build the program back in the late 80s, early 90s, that's when I feel like the East Carolina, as far as the national scene, it really, what you guys did put us on the map, so to speak.
Right.
So if you speak to them, then they're going to listen to you, and they may say at first, "Who are you?" And then you can tell them, "Look, this is who I am, and this is what we did." And you can't be breaking rules, and a lot of the players wearing earrings, or not a lot of players, but one of the players was wearing an earring one day, and I was at practice in spring football, and he screams really loud, Houston does, "That's why you're 3-9." And so he's holding them accountable. He's got high expectations. I really believe in him. The coaching staff that he had already had at James Madison and a few additions, they were recruiting their butts off. I was going to ask you about that. How important to you as far as recruiting goes? It looks like we're getting guys, a few 4-stars that are 4 stars in one website, and then the other website, when they pick East Carolina, they go down to 3 stars. But regardless how many stars by the name, they're players that can play.
Right. I mean, recruiting is of the utmost importance. Name recognition is another. But if you could get a 3-star or 4-star recruit that actually come to East Carolina and 5-star, I mean, they will attract their friends, and of course it'll attract the bigger media outlets and so on. And of course you want to put your name out there. The more your name is mentioned, and of course the most important thing, other than getting your education, we want to win. Winning is an important aspect of everything. Winning cures a lot of things. It cures a lot. So if we could get some serious recruits out there, and I'm a strong believer. You can't just recruit at home. You got to expand out. You got to go get them. I was in Florida. I mean, never heard of East Carolina in my life. funny story, when I sent my transcript out, I sent my transcript to Western Carolina, and they offered me a scholarship. When I sent my transcript and my paper, because I was supposed to send it to East Carolina. And I said, wait a minute, hold, this is not the same school. So that's the kind of recruiting job that Coach Donnie Thompson did at my house. You know, he had my mom like, that's it. That's where you're going. So if we could get some serious athletes and some serious recruits at the 4 and 5 star, that will open up a lot of doors. But you don't need them, but it helps. You know?
One thing I was going to mention, too, it's got to be hard for you. I'm a defensive-minded guy. The last few years, the defense has been pretty bad. We got to step it up, right,
yes.
Harry?
That's correct. That is so true. You know, size matters. Size matters. You know, you can be fast, but also too, you have to be strong, and you have to have some size to stop that line. You can't. I mean, the game has changed, and the game is more on a open game now as far as a passing game. So you got to have athletes, players that could cover, that could drop, you know, play wide open defense. So yes, the game has changed, but also too, you got to have smart players that could overcome the adversity of their size. I was a 6'4", 215-pound outside linebacker, but my mentality was there was nobody on the other side of the field that was better than me. Once I stepped on that field, there was nobody on that field that was better than me. Nobody on my team, nobody on the other team that was better than me. So that's how I approached every game, and that's how pretty much I approach everything that I do. That if I'm going to do it, I'm going to be the best at what I do. You know.
And you definitely did that. Can you talk about, obviously, one of the things while we're doing the podcast is reminiscing with you guys, obviously highlight and celebrate the people that really built this program. Can you tell folks, Pirate Nation, what you're doing now? Well,
actually, I'm working at Lowe's in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I work with the pros that pretty much build houses from the floor up. As far as you could probably call me as a project manager. I sort that I do with my contractors, and also I don't want to say my spare time because this is my life. I coach Pee Wee football. I got involved coaching about 8 years ago, and I coach 11, 12-year-olds at Oak Grove Athletic Association here in Durham, North Carolina. Also, I have a 10-year-old who he thinks he's the best quarterback in the world.
Can we get him a scholarship?
We're working on that one, and I just had my 18-year-old who went to Hillside High School.
Oh yeah, big time football.
He just ended up graduating from Hillside, and he ended up getting a full scholarship to Wingate University. I was hoping, East Carolina came knocking on the door, but they didn't. A little disappointed that it didn't, but I didn't want to. People said, "Are you going to get involved?" I guess recruiting is a little different now than when I was when I came up. And I wanted him to do it on his own. I'm like, hey man, you got to go out there and produce, do what you have to do. I stayed out of it. I said, hey, we're going to get you in school, but I'm not going. I don't want to interfere. He ended up getting a full ride to Wingate, not ECU, but it's still a free education, And so my time now is going to be between here, Monroe, North Carolina,
right.
Greenville on my in the night games, coaching Pee Wee Saturday mornings. So I'm going to have a busy fall.
I know the area very well. I'm originally from Durham, and I moved back there for a number of years. So Oak Grove, as a matter of fact, my mom's side of the family is from that area. of Durham and went to school there, Southern and high school in Oak Grove and all that area. So I know it very, very well. And I'll tell you what, the area is just amazing to me how big that area is becoming now in the Triangle.
Exactly. It is huge. Oak Grove actually is expanding. Actually, we play our games at Southern High School now.
Oh, wow.
We play our football games at Southern. The crowd is pretty. We have a pretty good as East Carolina. You mentioned earlier how everybody wants to have East Carolina as their homecoming because other than they think an ECU is an easy win back in 1988, 89, ECU always traveled well. They always brought the fans. Fans support the Pirates. Just like the same name, Oak Grove Pirates. I'm called Oak Grove Pirates, and so purple and gold is our color, and we travel well. So wherever the Pirates, you name Pirates, fans will come.
Well, hopefully we can have a pipeline there. I know David Garrard, being Southern High School, comes to mind. The turn of the century, that's late 90s, but hopefully we can create a pipeline that starting with you, because as much as you bleed purple and gold, you've got your own room in your house. Love to have some Pirates your way. Our way.
Most definitely.
Well, we're very excited. I know you've got somewhere you got to be, and I appreciate your time very, very much, because we learn more. We hear names and we remember the players, but that's one thing I always say is that we wonder what happened to these guys that we follow for 4 years, 2, 3, 4 years, and then you don't hear about them.
Then
so I
hope
I hope you'll come back, and I hope that you'll reach out to. They want former players at the practices. They made that very clear. So if there's any, I know you've got a busy schedule, but I think that would be really beneficial for a winner like yourself and many others that built the program to help Coach Houston change the culture and right the ship, because we only have 9 wins in 3 years. That's usually 7, 8, 9 is in one season and not 3.
That is correct. Correct.
Thank you, Jerry, so much. I know Bubba and Kyle they have to work for a living. I'm actually off today, but I appreciate you so much. I know Pirate Nation is going to be thrilled to hear your voice, and please don't be a stranger. I hope we can have you back on during football season.
And I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on. Now it's my turn. I got a meeting to go to. I got to go to a football meeting, actually. Isn't that great?
It is. To get you ready for it. Well, thank you.
Get ready.
Appreciate
it. On Monday for me.
All right. Go Pirates.
Thank you. Go Pirates.
That concludes this edition of 50 Pirates in 50 Days on the Sports Objective. Remember, join us daily between now and game day as we'll talk Pirate football with players from various eras. All these interviews are available exclusively on SoundCloud and our YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe and follow so you're alerted when we post new content. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, go Pirates!